Good evening, everyone. This is Lynn Allen Johnson, and I want to welcome you to the webinar tonight. I am so completely fired up to be here and introduce Dr. Ray Strand to all of you. And I just want to begin by saying that a couple of weeks ago, I was speaking with Dr. Ray Strand, and he was talking about how he has 80% or 80% of the people that he has using his system have become lifelong customers, lifelong product customers through his education and what this system does. And that's what prompted me to get this call together, to bring Dr. Strand on and to share this with all of you, because that is something that's so incredibly exciting, you know, for a medical doctor to be able to take these incredible products that we have and have 80% of the people who use this program go on through and become consumers of this product for life. I am passionate about that, and I just want to say again, welcome everyone, and I want to welcome Dr. Ray Strand and turn it over to him for now. So Dr. Strand, are you here?
Yes, I am, and I'm excited
Awesome.
to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you for being here.
Well, I thank you for that introduction, and I am excited to be here too, because I want to teach and show and explain why the RX weight loss system is going to change healthcare and the health and wellness industry in this country and around the world. And you have to understand what we're doing. So I'm going to spend a little time just kind of going through this and just educating you a little bit so you really understand what we have in SlenderX and in Accelerate, and how these all come together to really help us, not only as a physician helping people with their lifestyles, but also in developing lifetime customers. You see, physicians have known for years, in fact decades, that how you live your life, whether you smoke or you don't smoke, are you an exerciser or don't you exercise, how good is your diet, how much stress are you under? All of our diet and lifestyles really are the major reason we develop chronic degenerative diseases. And those are diseases like heart disease, hardening of the arteries, high blood pressure, stroke, cancer, obesity. Now I put obesity here because now we call obesity a disease. And diabetes, osteoporosis, just to name a few. But we as physicians know that how you live your life will pretty much determine what type of illness we'll be treating in our offices later in your life. And so this is something that you have to understand is critical in really knowing what is going on. Because think of all the drugs, all the treatments that we are spending in the medical community in regards to just these diseases. In fact, I would venture to guess that around 50% of the drugs prescribed in the world today are on just these diseases by themselves. But I'm going to focus more tonight just on weight control. And so you understand how obesity fits into all of this. And so first of all, it's important to understand that 2/3 of the adults today in the U.S. and 1/3 of our children are considered to be either overweight or obese. Now, about 1/3 of the Americans, people in the U.S. today, are trying to lose weight. They're on some kind of weight loss program. Another 1/3 are at least trying to maintain their weight. Here in the United States, we're spending about $30 billion each and every year on diets and weight control plans. But when you look at the medical literature and how effective these diets are, and really well-done studies show that even if you're able to lose weight on any of these diets, and I don't care which one you talk about, 2/3 will gain that weight back within a year. But if you go out 2 years, 98% of diets fail. In other words, they gain back their original weight and more, 98% of the time. So when you look at this, we are not getting much for our money, our time, or our effort. So when RX developed their weight management system, The last thing they wanted to do is create another diet that's going to fail 98% of the time. That was not their goal. And I know because I was involved in the development and in the approach that we're doing. But you should ask yourself, why don't diets work? Well, first reason they don't work is they're a short-term solution for a long-term problem. What do I mean by that? Well, if I have a patient come into me and say, oh, Dr. Strand, I'm going to go on such and such a diet. Well, I don't care which diet they're going on. The connotation is if they're going to be going on a diet somewhere in the future, they're going to be coming off that diet, usually returning to those poor lifestyles that got them into the problem to begin with. The other reason diets don't work is the majority of diets are not balanced. They're not healthy diets. Dr. Dean Ornish eliminates all fat. Dr. Atkins pretty much eliminates all carbohydrates. Even Dr. Atkins, when he introduced his diet in the early 1970s, when I was actually beginning my practice of medicine, he said, you shouldn't be on my diet for longer than 2 weeks. It's not healthy. And of course, politics and economics and all that jump in. But really, when you go on an Atkins no carbohydrate diet, you're basically taking your body and putting it in a state of starvation. You quickly use up your glycogen stores, your sugar stores, which the body desires within 3 days. You lose 6 to 8 pounds of glycogen and water. You haven't lost any fat. And you get into what we call a secondary fuel source called ketosis or ketones. And so you might as well have walked into a concentration camp, because you start literally eating yourself up, eating both muscle and fat at about the same rate. And yeah, you lose weight, but you don't lose percent of body fat. And no one can stay on this diet forever. It's not healthy. But the main reason diets do not work is they don't tackle the core issue, which is insulin resistance. So let's get in and just talk about what this is. Well, the metabolic syndrome is a situation where people have become less sensitive to their insulin. And we find that 25% of all adults in the U.S. and Canada already have full-blown metabolic syndrome. Well, what we don't realize, you don't wake up one day and have the metabolic syndrome or diabetes. It takes years or 10 to 15 years to develop that. So there's another 25% of all adults who are in the early stages of developing prediabetes or this metabolic syndrome. Now, 50% of the adults and about 25% of our children then are in some stage of insulin resistance. That's why the Center for Disease Control projected that about a third of our children born today in the U.S. after the year 2000 will become diabetic sometime in their lifetime. If they happen to be black or Hispanic, it's going to be nearly 50%. Now, this is amazing. This has the potential to ruin our healthcare system. So what is the metabolic syndrome and prediabetes? Well, it's a constellation of problems that occur when you have become less and less sensitive to your own insulin. So the body compensates for that problem by actually making more and more insulin. But as blood insulin levels rise, you gain this unusual amount of weight around your middle. Your blood pressure goes up. Your good HDL cholesterol goes down. Your really bad VLDL cholesterol goes up. The other fat in your blood, the triglycerides, go up. And you're at significant increased risk of having a heart attack or developing diabetes. So when we look as physicians at someone who comes in with an expanding waist size, a lot of times physicians refer to this as killer fat, because we know that it has so many other associated problems with it that your arteries literally begin aging a third faster than they should the moment you tip over into this abnormal metabolic state. So why does this happen? Well, let me just explain that in the United States, registered dietitians and nutritionists primarily, they are going on a 1901 theory because carbohydrates, you see, are simply long chains of sugar. And the longer the chain of sugar, this theory in 1901 felt that the longer it would take the body to break those those sugars down and raise your blood sugar. Therefore, they classified, carbohydrates into the length. The complex carbs should be the good carbohydrates, and the short chain sugars like table sugar, which are only 2 molecules, would break down very quickly and raise your blood sugar. Well, in 1981, Dr. David Jenkins out of the University of Toronto said, I'm going to challenge this. And he just put it to the test. He just simply gave participants a particular carbohydrate and then just measured the rise of their blood sugar, and he called this the glycemic index. So let me just explain how this works. So what he did is he would give these participants a glucose load, a certain amount of glucose, and it would spike their blood sugar and he would raise that. So he gave glucose a glycemic index of 100. Well, then he would take a food. In this case, we took sweet cherries. Well, since this is 100 glycemic index, since sweet cherries only raise the blood sugar 22%, sweet cherries have a glycemic index of 22. Well, he did that with every food: rice, bread, cereals, pasta, potatoes, apples, oranges, all these carbohydrates. And so this is what he found. Now, this is just some representative values. You see, glucose has a glycemic index of 100. And then you look here, a baked potato has a glycemic index of 85. In fact, mashed potatoes, it's 91. Almost all of your cereals here, cornflakes, all your cereals are in the 80s. Your rices are in the 80s. In fact, if you look at jasmine rice, it's 115. Now, I don't know how it can spike it faster than glucose, but it does. But whole wheat bread, brown bread, is 71. White bread is 70. So your brown bread is actually worse than your white bread. But here's the simple sugar. Look at table sugar. It only has a glycemic index of 61. Now, this was your simple sugar. But here we're just showing that bread, rice, cereal, potatoes spike your blood sugar faster than if you're slapping table sugar on your tongue. But go down and look at a peach or sweet cherries. Look at 28, 22, black beans 20. All of these whole foods are very, very low. And so we start to understand glycemic index. And I teach another thing on my website called glycemic load. But I'm not going to get into it. But basically, we know that when you start to eat baked potatoes, things like this, you basically end up, having problems. You spike your blood sugar. And so what happens here, and I just want to show you this. When you start out in the morning, this is called your fasting blood sugar. So you wake up and your blood sugar hopefully is between 70 and 80, 85, not over 90. Well, then you go out and you have a bagel. By the way, a white bagel has a glycemic index of 85. Orange juice and a cup of coffee, or maybe you have, cereal, Post Toasties or Wheaties or whatever, your blood sugar rises very, very rapidly. What happens? There are two major things that happen. The first is that this rising blood sugar creates a lot of excessive free radicals that damage the fine lining of the artery called the endothelium and causes inflammation. Your arteries go into spasm. In fact, the medical literature shows studies where after a meal it spikes your blood sugar, your arteries literally go into spasm for 4 to 5 hours after that meal. That is not good because inflammation is the underlying cause of heart disease. But the other thing that happens that people need to realize is the body must control blood sugars in a very narrow range. So what happens is when this blood sugar starts going up rapidly, you stimulate the release of insulin, which is your storage hormone. You see, insulin's job is to transport that glucose from your arteries into the cell to either be utilized as energy or stored as glycogen or fat. The problem is when you spike your blood sugar, you overstimulate the release of insulin, so your blood sugar starts to drop just as fast as it went up. But here's the key. You see, it drops below this fasting blood sugar down into the low blood sugar range, or what we call the hypoglycemic range. Well, the trouble with this is if the body just keeps letting this go down, 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 you not only can get a shaky weakness and get mentally confused, you literally could have a seizure or go into a coma. So this low blood sugar stimulates the release of what we call your stress hormones, like adrenaline and cortisol, to drive that blood sugar back up to normal. But here's the problem. Even though this blood sugar has come now back up to normal, you now have these high stress hormones floating around in your bloodstream. And so what this does, it creates an uncontrollable hunger. In the medical literature, we call it hyperphagia. You have to have another meal. You crave usually another high glycemic meal, and this cycle just keeps going over and over and over again. So I tell my patients, the greatest drug they put in their mouth are the foods they choose to eat because of this hormonal reaction. But this leads to not only uncontrollable hunger and increasing abuse of your insulin, but overall it is a major problem in trying to get this settled. In fact, let me just show you how, so we've done studies how high glycemic meals actually promotes overeating. Dr. Ludwig took 12-year-old boys, and he gave them either a high glycemic breakfast or he gave them a low glycemic breakfast, the same amount of calories. What he found is the children who had the low glycemic breakfast would happen to be a veggie, omelet, and fruit, compared to those who had instant oatmeal, which is high glycemic. Actually, they followed him, said, kids, eat whatever you want the rest of the day. These kids that had the high glycemic meal ate 80% more calories throughout the day. Well, it wasn't the group of kids because they switched the groups and did the same thing and found, no, it was the meal. Certain foods cause overeating and certain foods satisfy. So that is something you need to know. Well, now that you've heard that, look at the USDA food pyramid. Now, I have just shared with you that the breads, flour, cereal, rice, they spike your blood sugar faster than if you were slapping table sugar on your tongue. But where do we put it? Where has the medical community been telling you the foods you've got to eat? Well, here it is, 6 to 11 servings of breads, cereals, and pasta each and every day. Where do we put sugars? Oh, they're up here because we know that these are bad. Well, the problem is that we're just finding out that the food pyramid should really look like this. And so we should, since these are worse than sugar, they should form a T. It should be on top of the food pyramid. So it is my feeling that the medical community, the nutritionists, the registered dietitians, have actually created the obesity diabetes epidemics in this country. Now, here's something that I want you to see. I had a pharmaceutical rep. They have a drug called Avandia that improves insulin sensitivity. And you look at this chart. This is about 25 years. You could actually go back another 5-10 years because it takes 5 to 15 years of poor lifestyles, which is usually inactivity and the all-American diet and repeatedly spiking your blood sugar. It's kind of like hollering wolf all the time. You keep stimulating your insulin. You keep stimulating it, and pretty soon it's like hollering wolf. You just don't respond to it like you used to. And eventually you tip over into this abnormal metabolic state called insulin resistance or the metabolic syndrome. Well, the body compensates for that by actually increasing insulin production. As long as these two lines parallel, you'll see the blood sugars stay the same. They don't increase. So what happens, though, after about 12, 15 years of this, the old body just can't keep putting out that much insulin. And so blood insulin levels finally begin to fall, and then whoops, there goes your blood sugar. And it's at this point right here where we as physicians diagnose someone as being diabetic. Well, the problem is your arteries begin aging about a third faster all the way back here. So by the time you actually become diabetic and we diagnose you, 60% of our diabetics already have major cardiovascular disease. That's why 80% of our diabetics today are dying prematurely from what we call a cardiovascular event, like a heart attack, a stroke. That's why amputations are so much, because of hardening the arteries. So what has happened now is the American Association, the American College of the Diabetes Specialists, called endocrinologists, have got together and they said, oh my goodness, it's too late, because, this statistic has not changed. That's the way it was in 1970. It's true today. So what we find is we need to start treating back here. So they looked at the worldwide medical literature and said, what should we be telling doctors to do when these people start to gain weight, their blood pressure goes up, triglycerides go up, and they're just starting, and they have resistance to weight loss? What should we tell them to do? And it wasn't drugs. It was intensive lifestyle changes. We are on the cutting, leading edge of all this at RX. That's something you've got to understand. And so this is what we have to realize, because once you tip over into this abnormal metabolic state, you cannot utilize calories normally. So the mantra of the weight loss industry for the last 50 years has been calories in has to be less than calories out, or you can't lose weight. But in this abnormal metabolic state, the muscle becomes insulin resistant first. So the muscle cannot use these calories normally. You see, why that's important is 85 to 90% of all your calories from any meal or snack are usually used in the muscle as production of energy. But now many of the calories are diverted to the fat cells of the abdomen, and another job that insulin has is to convert those calories into fat and block the release of that fat. That's why when you tip over into insulin resistance, you hold on to fat like a sponge holds on to water. One of the hallmark signs of my patients is resistance to weight loss. They come in and it doesn't matter what they're doing or what they're saying. So what happens is this is key. Now, one of the stories I hear in my office all the time is really key. They say, Dr. Strand, I don't know what's happened. I'm 31 years old. I never had a weight problem, but for 10, 15 years, I haven't changed my diet, I haven't changed my exercise, I haven't done anything. But last year I put on 15 pounds, and this year I'm already up 25. What's going on? Well, we used to say, oh, it's the metabolic, your metabolic activity is down, or, you're not doing this or whatever. But really what's happening, they had poor lifestyles. They finally tipped over into this insulin resistance and started putting on this unusual amount of weight. And that's the key. So when you look at this, when I saw this back in the mid-1990s, I developed the Healthy for Life program. And I want to share with you, this is a behavioral modification program. Now, the hardest thing a physician deals with is getting people to change their lifestyle. Because we know diets don't work. We know that it has to be lifestyles that people do for a lifetime. But since it was poor lifestyles that got us into this trouble, causing this weight gain, causing our increased risk of heart disease and diabetes and high blood pressure and all that, then possibly it's actually healthy lifestyles that improve insulin sensitivity that could get us out. So we are now promoting a 4-part comprehensive lifestyle program, which every one of these improves insulin sensitivity from a different mechanism. I spent 3.5 years studying the medical literature, and we know that a healthy diet, one that does not spike your blood sugar, significantly improves insulin sensitivity. Just a modest aerobic exercise program improves insulin sensitivity. Taking nutritional supplements, cellular nutrition, improves insulin sensitivity. And my experience now with SlenderX and Accelerate, I honestly believe, we know that it releases fat, that accelerates fat loss, but in my clinical experience, and I'm checking people in their blood work and doing all this, it is improving insulin sensitivity from a different mechanism. It's a homeopathic drug, and this is one of the ways it works. Now, we know that it has other attributes, but here's what I have learned. If I could get my patients to make one of these lifestyle changes, it doesn't matter which one it is, I will see improvement. And that's even with SlenderX Accelerate. If I can get them to do 2 of the 4, I see a little bit more improvement. If I can get them to do 3, then there's significant improvement. But if I can get them to do all 4, it's simply phenomenal. And that's what the clinical trials are showing. Not only are people losing weight effectively, doubling any weight loss just on a low-caloric diet, which doesn't make sense unless you understand insulin resistance, but also what we're finding is that people feel better. They say, Dr. Strand, what's so hard about never going hungry, feeling great, having more energy, more focus, seeing my health parameters improve, my blood pressure getting better, my cholesterol's going down, my blood sugar's going down, and I'm beginning to lose weight, and I'm really not even trying. That's what we have. So let's just kind of go over this just a little bit so you kind of see how this works. See, when you eat a meal that does not spike your blood sugar, this is the low glycemic meal. You can see it going from your fasting blood sugar. Well, you can quickly see you're not going to spike it, so you're not going to have the excessive release of free radicals and inflammation of your arteries and spasm. So after one meal, you can cut out what we call glycemic stress, or that irritation and inflammation of your arteries. But the other thing you should notice, well, since the blood sugar is not going up that fast, you're not going to overstimulate your release of insulin like you do when it goes up very high. So what happens, yes, the blood sugar will return back to the fasting blood sugar level, but not go into the hypoglycemic or low blood sugar range to set off this uncontrollable hunger. So when you're using Accelerate and SlenderX, yes, it helps suppress appetite. But you add a 1,250 calorie low glycemic diet, that is going to also suppress your appetite, bring natural appetite back. Because after 5, 6, 7 days, what happens is your natural appetite comes down. And yes, when the blood sugar's here, have another meal, but just have a meal or snack that does not spike your blood sugar. So that's the key, for a low glycemic diet. Well, here's where Pure Nourish fits in. You see, Pure Nourish, it's not only gluten-free, soy-free, GMO-free, but it's low glycemic. In other words, it will not spike your blood sugar. You start out the morning with a Pure Nourish meal, and all you have to do is 2 scoops in water, almond milk, coconut milk, along with some frozen fruit, because remember, all your fruit is low glycemic. I like it twice a day, but maybe once a day. The nice thing about it, even this is only about 230 to 250 calories per meal. So even if you did have it twice a day, that's 500 calories. You have a couple snacks, and you still can have a 550 calorie meal in the evening. But this allows you to easily experience a healthy diet that does not spike your blood sugar. But what I have learned over the years, it's also a wonderful behavioral modification tool, because you simply get people out of their normal eating behavior. And then you teach them how to eat 1 low glycemic meal or 2 and a couple low glycemic snacks each and every day. So it's just part of a healthy diet, and it's something that we got to keep in mind because it's a wonderful product. Now, the other thing we've learned is that nutritional supplementation, I can show you hundreds of studies where they've looked at nutrients like grapeseed extract or chromium, magnesium, selenium, vitamin E, vitamin C, and other antioxidants that actually show that you improve insulin resistance, or improve insulin sensitivity is another way to say that, by just taking these nutrients at their optimal levels. Well, that's provided in the RX Optimals. So this to me is key because it's part of a healthy lifestyle. SlenderX and Accelerate is great, and I'm going to show you where you put that in. But don't forget about these other nutrients that are going to help people not only during this time, but throughout their lifetime. In fact, many of my patients, I add Omega Q because fish oil lowers cholesterol, decreases inflammation, gives you your CoQ10 energy back. There's a cost factor, but I like this, and I recommend this as my cellular nutrition. This is wonderful, and so that's there. But now when you look at exercise, I want you to know you do not have to be a superstar. You just build up to 30 minutes of modest aerobic activity 5 days per week. Now, it's not 7 days. It's just 5 days a week. Your body will do better if you rest it 2 days a week. And the studies, the clinical trials show this is adequate. Now, I want to make a point here. Aerobic activity improves insulin sensitivity where weight resistance training does not. Now, I'm not against weight resistant training, but you want to add it to aerobic activity. And it could be brisk walking, bike riding, swimming, hiking, biking. It doesn't matter. Just anything that gets the body moving. You see, aerobic activity is a key to improving insulin sensitivity, which is the root cause of our obesity, of our health problems, and that's where we're headed. So the Healthy for Life program is a 12-week basic program. It's a behavioral modification program. And this is located at healthyforlifeprogram.com. Now let me share with you that when I first started trying to work with my patients in my office, I brought a nutritionist in to teach all of this to my patients in my waiting room on Tuesday and Thursday nights. They loved the information. They thought it was great. They just went on and on about it. However, when I would check them back, do their blood work, follow them up, I was very disappointed in the results. But when I started to approach it more as a behavioral modification, in other words, taking people by the hand and guiding them step by step, and at the Healthy for Life program, we evaluate them. In fact, you can go to the homepage and take an automated free health risk assessment that will tell you what stage of insulin resistance you might be in or if you don't have any. But then we also educate you. I have put on a video series that you look at a video once a week. It's a 12, 15-minute talk. You can read it, but there's weekly trainings. In fact, when you get done with a 12-week basic Healthy for Life program, you're getting a nutritional course. It's cutting edge. No one else is doing this. You see, they may be doing parts. You know, oh, they do the South Beach diet, or they do this diet, or they do, oh, those are good. Some people exercise. You know, all the wellness centers, they might you know, really promote exercise and all that. But see, no one puts it together. When you develop insulin resistance, we're talking about reversing prediabetes, and in some case, maybe even reversing diabetes. Well, you can't just do that by doing a little bit. So we educate you, but also you'll start to get daily motivational emails. They're not only practical, simple guides, but we motivate you. And we hold you accountable, because what we have you know, we have your own lifestyle journal, which will you record how you're eating, how you're exercising, how you're taking your nutritional supplements, what you're drinking, and it is automatically graded. And then we help you document your improvement. So the Healthy for Life program at healthyforlifeprogram.com, again, you get motivational daily tips to help improve your lifestyle. And they're very practical. It's doable. I'm a family physician. I believe in creating things that are doable for my patients. If you get too carried away, they will not do it. I've learned it. I've been in practice nearly 40 years now. Now, in the education, you got the video educational series, but we have a lot of helpful resources. We have a food database where we've listed the desirable, moderately desirable, least desirable, or medium, low, high, like I have in my book, and recipes that are low glycemic, menus, and then how to best utilize SlenderX and Accelerate to optimize weight loss. You also have, again, the accountability, the self-graded lifestyle journal. So every time you log on, you see your home page, you have a to-do list and filling out your journal and all that, but you look over and you can quickly see how you've done, because your lifestyle journal is graded. You can see how you did the past week, the past month, and program to date. Now let me tell you something. When I have people who don't journal, oh, it's too much, it's a headache, it doesn't do this, I get about 10 to 15% success. Now that's better than the 2% success rate that other diets have long term. But when they journal and they're getting this information, I'll tell you what, at the end of 12 weeks, they understand it, they know it, they utilize it. And I'll tell you, 80 to 85% of my patients have long-term success, plus they stay with the products. They stay with the supplements. They stay with Pure Nourish. They enjoy it. They're hooked because they feel so good. So you want lifetime customers. I think anybody who's in business, this is the nemesis of all nutritional network marketing companies, because people come on and they go off. They come on and they go off. You can't keep them on. Well, we need to be educated. We need to take this time. So what I have done in my practice on my online program, people who complete it and do the journaling, I have 80% success of those people becoming lifetime customers. That's how we have built our business, our practice, all of that. The reason is because this is a behavioral modification program, which promotes healthy lifestyles, and we're not promoting just a diet. Now, SlenderX and Accelerate are a unique and effective way to attract individuals who desire to lose weight. It's a great product. In fact, I have to tell you, I just visited last week with 2 top endocrinologists, diabetes specialists out of Atlanta, who were attracted to RX because of SlenderX and Accelerate. They understand what I've just shared with you. They know the importance of this product, and they wanted to know, am I seeing improvement of insulin sensitivity using these products? Not only that, they wanted to know there's something behind this. And so that's what you've got to understand. Yes, it's important, but we want you to know that the Healthy for Life program has been involved in 3 major clinical trials. Those are under the direction and guideline of the FDA. And we know that what we see with people, they not only lose weight effectively, but their blood pressure comes down. Their cholesterol triglycerides come down. The good cholesterol goes up. Their blood sugars come down. We even know you can reverse this metabolic syndrome or prediabetes. So let me just kind of take a minute, because I just want you to understand how I look at SlenderX and Accelerate. SlenderX is a homeopathic drug. The FDA looks at SlenderX as a drug. It contains 10 different major ingredients. These ingredients have been studied, but we know they increase fat release from your fat cells or your midsection. But I feel they do it by improving insulin sensitivity. Now, the other ingredients, they suppress your appetite and they increase your metabolism. So it's a wonderful product. It works wonderful. Accelerate contains these high doses of vitamin B12 for increased energy and metabolism, along with biotin, but it has these Ayurvedic herbs, which have a calming effect. And so anybody who's challenging lifestyles, and I've seen it in my practice, they like Accelerate, I think, almost as well as SlenderX. A lot of my patients deal with bipolar, depression, anxieties, and they say they can't believe how much better they feel on these products. So when you look at it, you want to have them be effective. So what are the keys to success in using SlenderX and Accelerate? Well, you have to have them eating a low glycemic diet, 1,250 calories now per day. That should be. Now, it's not just eating 1,250 calories. It needs to be low glycemic. Why? Because I shared with you, when you have a low glycemic meal, your natural appetite's suppressed. So you've got the homeopathic SlenderX drops that's decreasing appetite, but you eat this way. I know people who have use SlenderX Accelerate, but they eat 1,250 calorie diet. Well, the problem is they don't watch whether it's low glycemic or not. And one thing I noticed, they're always hungry. It doesn't suppress it that much. And they're always struggling. Now, they can do it, but they're always fighting it. When you combine a low glycemic diet with this, the results are great. Now, we know because you're burning fat, you're going to be putting a lot of toxins out. You want to drink plenty of purified water and have your purity water bottle. 6 to 8 bottles a day would be wonderful. Now, I like at least adding the RX Optimals, because this is the core reason, the inflammation in your arteries. I told you about those studies where you go out and have a bagel and orange juice and you get inflammation in your diet. or you get inflammation in your arteries for 4 to 5 hours after meal. Well, they've given vitamin E, vitamin C, and supplement, then had them go have the high glycemic breakfast. Their arteries only went into spasm 4 to 5 minutes. So we know it's free radicals, and antioxidants are your treatment, your antidote. So taking your optimals with meals is another protection. I use Pure Nourish because they're not high in calories. They fit into this very well. And then I want them to exercise 30 minutes 5 times a week. But like everything, and and I want to share, when you look at SlenderX, they talk about phase 1 being the first 2 days. Well, in my books, I've written them for 15 years. I call phase 1 the weight loss phase, and phase 2 the maintenance phase. I look at the first 2 days as a loading phase. So there might be some confusion, but it all fits. But in phase 1 of my program, which is phase 2 in the SlenderX brochure, we recommend avoiding all breads, flour, rice, cereal, potatoes, and sugar, because these are your enemies. These are the ones that set off that uncontrollable hunger, that sets off that overeating and those cravings. But here's the key. Adding my online 12-week basic Healthy for Life program is key in having success long term, because people are going to look at costs, they're going to look at this, but they've been fighting this problem for years. They've probably been on 4 or 5 different diets. They have a fear of failure. But if they start the SlenderX drops, most people in my practice have only been using them 1 to 3 months. Now, if they have a serious weight problem, yeah, they might use it longer than that. But what do they do after 90 days? They go back eating the way they did. They haven't learned anything, and quickly that's the problem. They look at it as a diet. But if you start to get them in, and we start to teach them, we have this time to teach them. From the first day they start taking SlenderX and Accelerate, they should be learning new, healthier lifestyles. This is our time we have them. And that's why we need to take them by the hand and guide them. So at the end of 12 weeks, yeah, they may have gotten down to their ideal weight, but their health parameters, whatever their goal is improved. So that's what we're doing. So here's RX's weight management system. You've got SlenderX, you've got Pure Nourish, you've got the Optimals, Omega Q, and I would add RestoreX and Rejuvenex to this list. Rejuvenex has the green coffee bean, which has been shown to help in weight loss. It gives them more energy. RestoreX is key because you're going to lose a lot of fat, and the fat's where we hold the toxins and the heavy metals, and why wouldn't you want to get that out of the body? So those are always options. So it's even more than this picture. So what we have done, and what I've tried to share with you, is that you're going to see people who are having early signs of insulin resistance. But what we have done is we lower the clinical trials using the Healthy for Life program. We lowered insulin levels by nearly 50%. We were literally able to tip them back into a normal metabolic state. But as insulin levels dropped, what happened? Just the reverse. Your blood pressure came down. Your blood sugars came down. Your triglycerides, cholesterol came down. And then they began releasing fat. And it all came from the middle. Now that's what the clinical trial showed with using SlenderX and Accelerate. So here you're going to be hearing more and more from RX. And I'll just show, I know that Lynn Allen is very familiar with this, but you're going to be hearing more and more about first step therapy. What that means is that physicians, the medical community, is being encouraged to offer their patients a trial of healthy lifestyles as a first step to therapy for diabetes, for heart disease, for high cholesterol. This is what it's all about. So what happens is that we just need to see that it's going to be RX, A-R-I-I-X, instead of RX, R with an X, like a medication. And that's what we're getting to. And so it's not just about weight loss. Yes, weight loss is key. That's what brings people in. They want to look better. They want to lose it. But let me tell you, I don't know about you, but anybody that's been through this, RX's weight management system really is not a diet. It's a lifestyle, and you need to understand that. You see, weight loss is great, However, keeping it off is priceless. This is what you've got to understand. This is what we're going for. And this is what creates lifetime customers, because you're giving them all this great information. Now, if you would like to know the studies that I have, I've got nearly 30 pages of references I studied over 30 years, and they're from mainstream journals, the Journal of American Medical Association, British Lancet, New England Journal of Medicine. These aren't fly-by-nights. You know, this is something that you have. But I hope you take this to heart, and maybe each one of you might go to healthyforlifeprogram.com and take the free health risk assessment, see where you are. Consider doing it yourself to see how this works, how it affects you and your thinking, and be sure to journal. Anyway, I'll turn that back to you, Lynn, and I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Strand. This has been absolutely amazing, and I want to thank you for taking your time on a Sunday night to come on and share this with us. I am absolutely passionate about this system. You know that. I use it because I know that, you know, the everyday, you know, the messages that I get each day, they help me. They inspire me. I have learned so much from you over the years, and I'm encouraging every single one of the people who I get on SlenderX and Accelerate to join this program and take it, because it does help the people to understand. It helps them to know why they're hungry and why, if they're cheating on SlenderX and Accelerate, they say, well, then I'm hungry. And I say, then I know you're cheating. You're eating high glycemic food. I know that's why. And so teaching them that and having them on this program means the success rate is tremendous. The long-term effect of this is tremendous, because I'm one of those chronic yo-yo dieters. I did it for 40 years. I have dieted everything on the planet. And, you know, and then SlenderX and Accelerate appears, and this amazing program that has taught me so many things. It's just a gift. This is a gift, and I want to encourage everybody to go there. And for all of us who are working to get this product out, you know, to share it with the world, all of us reps, I fully believe that each one of us should sign up for this, take the program, learn from it, and then share it with every single person that comes on board, that gets on your products, so that they're going to become lifelong consumers, which is what we're looking for. And that's how we're going to, you know, change the obesity and the health crisis that we have in the world today. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Strand, for everything you do, and thank you to all of you for being here this evening. Have a wonderful evening. God bless you. Good night, everyone.